Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Slauson, 180 Algebra 2 Teachers, and this is the video for ICANN number 1, first attempt, solving polynomials. And let's go ahead and get started. So on problem 1, we are working with the following function. And on 1a, we want to describe the end behavior. So we want to know the overall shape. And to know the overall shape, we look at our leading term, which is the term with the highest exponent. So 2x to the fourth, and the fact that that exponent is even means we will be having some type of U shape, kind of like a parabola. And it's going to stay like a regular U because the number in front is positive, and so that will keep our U from being flipped. All right, so let's go ahead and get started then. So marking our arrows, the arrow on the left is negative infinity, infinity, because remember, it's going left for x and up for y, so that's why it's negative infinity for x and positive infinity for y. And then for the arrow on the right, we'll have infinity, infinity, because for the arrow on the right, it's going right and up. So right is x is positive infinity and up is y is positive infinity. All right, describing the end behavior. The first one's already been set up for us. They're doing the positive infinity, so we're going to have to do the negative infinity one on the other side. And then remember, you are done when you fill in the blank. So for both of these, we will have infinity, infinity. How many solutions are there? That is the other job of the exponent. Again, this exponent tells us that we will have 4 solutions. So those 4 solutions might be a mixture of real and imaginary solutions. We'll see that once we get to 1c. So now we're going to find the zeros of the function by factoring. And don't forget to look for a GCF, and you do need to show all your work. So I'm going to rewrite the problem here. And as I'm doing that, I want to be looking for a GCF. And what I do notice, and again, when it says find the zeros, I'm setting it equal to 0, is I can factor a 2 out from each term, and I can factor an x out from each term. So I'm going to do that here, and I'll be left with x cubed plus 4x squared minus x minus 4. From there, what I'm going to do is just try to factor what's in the parentheses. So if you could, for imagine, just like that 2x GCF is not there, what I'm going to do is group my 4 terms, because since there are 4 terms, we're going to use the grouping method. So what you can't see me doing is if I could just like cover up this 2x, or maybe I'll just lightly cross it off for now. We're just going to act like it's not there because I only want to focus on the 4 terms that are there. And in my first 2 set of parentheses, what I'm going to do is look for another GCF. And the GCF I can take from there is an x squared. And when I do that, I'm left with x plus 4. And when I go to factor the other set of parentheses, this is where we're going to have what I call the twins. And we're going to have another x plus 4, which means we have to find a very specific GCF for our second set of parentheses. And what I can factor out of there is a negative 1. So when I go to start to write all the factors for this particular problem, let me switch this color. I've got the GCF of 2x, and then the stuff that I was factoring in pink, the twins becomes one of my factors. I'm sorry, the GCF becomes one of my factors, and the twins become the other factor. And again, this has been equaling 0 the whole time because it does say find the zeros. If you are inclined, and it's just a good idea for later on in this chapter, this x squared minus 1, you could factor further. It is a GCF. So if I just kind of bring everything down one more time, I'm going to have to squish this in here. I'm going to have 2x, x squared minus 1 turns into x plus 1 and x minus 1. And then bringing down that x plus 4, I am now going to get my 4 solutions. So my first solution comes by taking 2x and setting it equal to 0. When I do that, one of my answers is 0. Then what I'll do is I'll take x plus 1, set it equal to 0. And when I subtract the 1 over, my other answer is negative 1. And then when I take x minus 1 and set it equal to 0, add the 1 over. Here's my third solution. And then when I take my final factor and set it equal to 0. There we go.
Are you talking to me?
All right, sorry about that. One of the other teachers interrupted me. So setting my final factor equal to 0, x plus 4 equals 0, I'm going to bring the 4 over by subtracting, and now I have my 4 solutions. X equals 0, -1, 1, and -4. All right, let's finish by going to our graphing calculator, and we are going to type in our equation. So let me clear it up a little bit. And so going to the graphing calculator, give me a moment, I gotta switch screens. Remember, we are going to, after I turn on my calculator, we are going to use the y equals button. So top left, y equals button. And if you have any equations, clear them out. Make sure all of your plots at the top are not turned on. And I am going to type in my equation. Let's move this up a little bit. All right. So I'm going to pause this while I type in my equation. All right, so my equation's typed in. Just double check that yours is correct as well. And then I'm going to go to the window button and change my window. So I'm going to change it from -5, or what you see here, to the following numbers. So all right, so I have adjusted my window, and one of the most common errors when you get to this part is using the subtraction button instead of the negative button down at the bottom, so make sure you did that. Here, I'm going to go ahead and hit graph. Here comes my window, and then I'm going to draw a quick version of this on my graph paper. All right, so let me move this over. All right, one more time so you can see it. All right, here we go. I'm going to draw this real quick. And this is not a great version of the graph, but it's pretty good. All right, we will need to find all the key points. So the first thing I'm going to do is quickly mark my arrows, which we did when we did our first problem. And then I'm going to find the x-intercepts. And then I'm going to find the min, and then the max here. All right, so let's talk about the x-intercept. So going back to my graph, when I found the zeros, I actually already know every point my graph hits the x-axis. So the one on the left is my -4. Working my way over, I've got a -1, then I have a 0, and then I have a +1. So my graph isn't that great that I drew, but let's go ahead and get those drawn in there. So this is -4. This one was -1. This one is 1. And then the one all the way, whoops, sorry, that's not 1. That's supposed to be 0, 0. And then this one is 1, 0. All right, the only thing I need to do is find my mins and my max. So to do that, what I'm going to do is go back to my graphing calculator, hit second trace, and let's go ahead and find the minimum first. So I chose option 3, and I'm going to find the one all the way down here. Whoops. And so I have to pause to do this. Doing this on the computer is not that simple. All right, so what I want to do is, with that minimum, is move my cursor, and I realize it's kind of covered up by these numbers and stuff, but get it to where I think the minimum would be. So I'm kind of guessing right there. And then when it says left bound, remember, I'm going to hit the left arrow a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, to go to the left, and then hit enter once I've done that. And then I'm going to hit the right arrow and go back to where I think I was. I think that's the minimum. And then for right bound, I'll hit the right arrow 2 or 3 times. And once I do that, I'll hit enter. And when it says guess, I'll confirm that. And so I'm going to write this down. So -3.057, rounding it. I better write this down because it doesn't allow me to do that when this calculator's up. And then my y value 2. Okay, so I'm writing this down. And then we're going to do the same. So I'm going to pause the video so I can get this switched over, again, using the graphing calculator, and this screen does not work. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is find the maximum. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let me get to back to my graphing calculator. Again, what I want to do when I do that is press second trace. I'm going to choose number 4 maximum, and I'm going to work my way over there. So first I'm going to use my cursor, get to where I think the maximum is. So I'm just moving over. And I think the maximum is about there. And then for left bound, hit the left arrow 2 or 3 times. Once I do that, hit enter. And then I'm going to go back to where I think that maximum is, right about there. And then for right bound, hit the right arrow 2 or 3 times. And then for guess, hit enter 1 more time, and then I will write this number. And then I'm going to pause the video and go ahead and just get my other minimum done. And you can do that as well. So by the time this starts back up, I will have the other min done. All right, that's a lot of numbers. So I put my mins and max in purples and drew some arrows so you could see what those are. Sorry that my handwriting is not very neat on here. But now I'm going to find the negative interval. So the opposite of negative is positive, and I'm going to have 2 negative stretches. I'm going to have from here to here, and then from there to there. So when I write my first one, it will be negative. Remember, we're just going to write the x values from -4 to -1. And put that little u from 0 to 1. As it turns out, I didn't need the maxes or mins, but it's still good practice for in case we do need them. All right, the average rate of change. You need to remember that these are not x and y. These are both x. So if x is -2, what's y? And if y is +2, what's y? And to do that, I can just go back to my graphing calculator. Okay, I can do second trace. I can choose option number 1 for value and put in -2. And my first y value is going to be -24. And then I can repeat that second trace, choose option number 1 for value again, put x is 2 in there, and get my other y value. So going back to this, I'm going to have -24 with -2 and 72 for y. And now I can do my formula, which remember is the glasses. So in the sturdy leg. So I'm getting my tabletop. In the bottom, I will put my x's. So I'll just do -2 subtracting 2. And in the numerator, I'll put my glasses. So I'll do the y's, -24 and subtract 72. And once I get that done, starting with the denominator, -2 take away 2 is -4. And then in my numerator, -24 take away 72 is -96. And now if I just divide those, I get a +24/1. So there is my average rate of change. All right, number 1 was a little long, but that's mainly because of the graphing calculator part. All right, number 2. Let's go to number 2. So using this equation now, let's get a different color going here. The CP on the left just reminds you that this is definitely a capstone question. So which of the following describes the end behavior? And with an odd exponent, I know this is going to be some type of like line figure that's still going kind of uphill because the number in front is positive. So it is falling. Whoops. So when I look at the picture, it's falling on the left and rising to the right. So falling to the left, rising to the right gives this my choice. How many solutions are there? Again, that's that job of that exponent. There's going to be 5. The y-intercept. So the y-intercept, if you just remember, is when x is 0. And if you go through your equation, let me erase this again, and you put 0 into all of these terms here, everything is going to disappear but the -16. So my y-intercept is 0, -16. And then let's go ahead and solve this. So I'm about to run out of time on my first 15 minutes of free video, so I'm going to pause this and then I'll finish this video up.